Everyone. Welcome to Wisdom Seeker Live podcast. So glad to have you joining us today. And I hope that as you join us, that you'll let us know where you're joining from. And also be sure to post questions and comments because your participation makes the podcast much more successful. And as always, we like to start by explaining what we think, believe wisdom is as a podcast. And wisdom is a journey or a process that we go through. And hopefully we choose to do that on purpose. And the first step in that process is that we gain knowledge. And hopefully we try each day to gain some new knowledge, add to our knowledge base. But contrary to what some people will offer at times, is knowledge is not power. Knowledge is data and information. What we can do with that knowledge determines whether it's powerful or not, and whether it's powerful for good or bad. Second step in this process is to gain understanding. And understanding is when we begin to take that knowledge and internalize it, make it a part of our life, and make it a part of what we do to find solutions and to answer questions and so on. And then the most important step in this process is when we go to wisdom. And wisdom is taking our knowledge and our understanding and begin to look at it from a much greater perspective. We begin to realize that our knowledge and our understanding impacts other people, how we choose, what we choose to do, our actions, our behaviors, our attitudes impact others around us. And so as we begin to learn that and also learn the effects of our choices on ourselves, both internally and externally, we are beginning to move into wisdom. And for those of us that are of a spiritual bent, the way we like to express it is that we begin to see life and our experiences through God's eyes. So that's what how we describe wisdom for Wisdom Seeker Live podcast. And today it's truly an honor for me to have a friend of mine. Steve and I have been networking on LinkedIn for a while, and we've crossed paths along the way. And I've enjoyed Steve's content and getting to know him. So I'm going to bring Steve on board.
Hey, Kevin, what's going on?
Hey, Steve, how are you today?
Doing fantastic. How about yourself, sir?
I'm doing well. I'm blessed and ready to start a new week. So can't ask for much more than being alive and reasonably well, right?
Absolutely, 100%.
Well, yes, what I'd like you to do, if you would, Steve, is introduce yourself to the audience. Tell them a little bit about yourself, and maybe even something that has been a divining moment for you or whatever in your journey in gaining wisdom.
Absolutely. Well, I got to do this. So what's going on, friends? Steve Spiro, the Master Connector, coming at you live or direct. That's my signature. So I got to start there. But so shy and introvert, picked on, bullied, learning disabled, dyslexic kid from the Bronx. But I had a chip on my shoulder, and growing up broke. My parents got divorced early on. Just driven to succeed. Realizing I had some talent. Went to high school for advertising, which is where I met my wife. Went to college for advertising as well. Got out, couldn't get a job, and started a company. Opened a small advertising agency in right off of Madison Avenue, New York City, which was pretty wild, being a 22-year-old businessman. And then, because I was picked on and bullied later on in life, probably too late in life, I wound up going on to get a couple of black belts, started training since '83 in the martial arts. My wife's a black belt as well. And life's interesting in a household with two black belts, if you know what I mean. But anyway, had a karate studio for a while. So, very busy, not productive at the time, busier than a one-legged man in a fanny kicking contest, honestly.
Understood.
And through a good friend of mine, I was working with in advertising at the time. He introduced me to an extremely successful entrepreneur who took me under his wing, took on a mentoring role, got me on a path of self-development, books, audios, networking. In fact, he challenged me, said, I would like you to meet 3 strangers every day. And, you live in the New York area, if you talk to a stranger, they're going to shoot you or kidnap you, but I did it. And
Yeah.
it stretched me big time, got me out of my comfort zone. And so I wound up shifting over into technology, consulting, and along the way grew a very big network. And today, 19,000 contacts on my phone and 26,000 LinkedIn connections and growing quickly. And, today, inspirational speaker. I do some entrepreneurial stuff as well. I also have a podcast or a show called the Master Connector Show, Wednesdays at 1 p.m. Eastern, and just wrote a book, as you can see on the screen here, author now, and Audible just came out last week. So it's been a wild journey. But my goal, my mission on this planet is to be the light, uplift, inspire, and encourage. And there's been a lot to answer your divining moments. I've never heard it said like that, but I love it. I've heard defining moment, but divining moments. I like that. I don't know if that was a typo or if you meant that. But I think the biggest one was mentorship, having someone come into my life and give me perspective. Kevin, you might be, I'm guessing you're been around long enough like I have, where we remember times before there was GPS in our life.
Oh, yeah.
And I used to drive around being in outsized business development. I was driving around with these large Hangstrom maps sitting over the top of my steering wheel of my car. And the stress of trying to get to places using a map. And then, of course, MapQuest. And that was a little better, but still terrible. And then GPS came in. And I can't imagine life today. It's hard to visualize and imagine what life is like without having a GPS in my life. And, I'm a believer. And of course we have the ultimate GPS, but on this earth, having somebody who could be a GPS for you and kind of guide you. And that's been a real divining moment. He's a believer as well. In fact, a big part of my faith comes from him leading me in that direction. So it's been an incredible journey. Journey is still going, but I'm excited where I am, but I'm more excited about where I'm going.
Outstanding. So I have to ask, tell me a little bit about your journey in martial arts. That's always fascinated me. I've considered it myself and just never got it out in front of me.
Yeah, I mean, so quick small story along the way. When I was a kid getting picked on, my family saw that and they said, all right, we're going to take you to judo. So they took me to judo, but they were broke. So I was only able to go for a few months, but it definitely impacted me. By the way, it made it worse because when it got back to the neighborhood, the kids were like, oh, let's see what you got. They challenged me.
Yeah.
So, but I remember having the gi, the uniform, and the smell of it. And there was something that fascinated me. I also grew up in the sort of the Bruce Lee era. And, I remember when, Saturday morning Kung Fu theater and all that stuff, growing up with that. So there was something inside of me, and started training later in life at 20 years old. And a lot of the people that I had trained with, they were bigger than me, stronger than me. They had started earlier than me. And it was tough because I'm, 5'7" barely, and, not super big framed. But it was one of the best experiences. I developed grit, and I had some grit already, but I really shaped it. It helped me with discipline. It helped me with focus. It helped me with confidence. There's so many things I learned. I'm not a Zen Buddhist, but I learned the idea of being here now and being present and not, kind of brain scattered and thinking about what's next, but being here for the moment. So many lessons I learned there, but I nose busted big time. My mentor likes to throw this story out when he's using me as an example to teach others. He's like, yeah, Steve learned he blocked his sensei's roundhouse kick with his nose. I learned not to duck into a kick that my sensei was coming at me. He was 6'5", big guy, super quick. And I guess I panicked. I ducked. His knee came up, and boom. Crazy. Lips split open, eyebrows. I mean, all sorts of crazy stuff. But listen, it was a journey. It was a lesson. And it, I realized not just physically, I just watched a movie. It's about a swimmer. She was 65 years old when she swam from Cuba. Ayana, I forget her name.
Yeah.
Ayad. Okay, my wife is telling me the background. Ayad, Ayid. Okay, something like that. You could look it up. But anyway, the grit to be able to swim from Cuba to Florida, just amazing. And it's not just physical, it's mental. And that's what shaped me in the martial arts big time.
Yes, learning to be present is very valuable. In my faith journey, one of the things I've had to learn is that focusing in the past other than to learn, and too much focus on the future is not healthy either. We just got to be present. We've got to be in the moment because that's when things happen. That's when we have our best chance to impact others. But if we're scattered and going every which way, we can't pick up on it. And that's such a key thing. So tell us a little bit about your book. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you so much. Yeah. So the book and the reason it's pronounced Tao, Tao is Tao, which means the way. And in the martial arts, we talked a lot about, I learned a lot about Do, D-O, which stands for the same thing. It's the way. It's the Japanese version of the way. Okay. So I want to, and if I named the book the Do, people would read it as the do of a master connector. They wouldn't get it. So Tao made a little more sense. There's books out there. Even Bruce Lee wrote a book, The Tao of Jeet Kune Do, but it's not really about Taoism, or it's not a religious thing. It was just a word, and it's the way of a master connector, right? And the subtext is the way, kind of put in quotation marks, because again, the Tao, the way an introvert became a master connector. And it's really parables and stories of how someone like myself, as I mentioned, was able to get through and become this sort of master connector. And things, there's 4 pillars in the book, same 4 pillars. I do keynote speaking. Whenever I speak, I'm asked to speak on typically 1 to 4 topics: connecting authentically, being others focused, being a go-giver, having the grit to overcome obstacles, and building community and growing connections. And the book is broken up into those 4 pillars as well. And I've got some amazing contributors that have helped with the book. So that's been pretty wild. I've got some pretty highly respected, especially for me, honored to have them on the book, co-writ some of the sections with me and for me. But it's been a blessing. And, again, the mission of the book is really just to inspire people. And as you could kind of see in the subtext, inspiring you to kickstart your success journey. And I think on the back it says, I'm going by memory, but it's inspiring you to get out of your comfort zone, or something to that effect. So right. It's just the purpose of the book is really to help people believe that if this guy could go on to achieve and become a master connector, that anyone could do whatever they put their mind to.
Very good. Yes. It's good that we can motivate others from our life. I mean, that's our power as an individual, is to share our unique story with other people so that they can be motivated and overcome this idea of, well, I'm the only one out here that struggles or whatever. And want to welcome, I hope I pronounced the name correctly, Fadi. If I didn't pronounce it correctly, please forgive me. Try to be very particular with people's names. And
Fadi is a good friend. I've known Fadi for, God knows, maybe 7 or 8 years. We met originally in Greenwich, Connecticut. I shared this out to my community on my LinkedIn. So
okay, great.
Hopefully, I think that's how Fadi might have seen it. So yeah,
it appears that way. I can see that there is a link related. So
Yeah.
Well, wow, what a journey. One thing I'd like to kind of focus in on a little bit, because I know this is something I've dealt with and experienced, and it's still a hot topic out in life and in especially in social media and all. And tell us a bit about your experience with bullying. That's a tough one.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot more people that have had a tougher time than I did. This is back before social media. So I know it's tough because, there's not just physical bullying, but there's social media bullying. But, I mean, my nickname growing up was Spaz. They took the last name and
Oh no!
don't dare anyone listening ever call me that. Don't forget, double black belt now. But,
You practice some of your
yeah,
training.
yeah, because I was awkward. I was uncoordinated. I was the last to be picked on teams when they were picking kickball teams and, whatever, basketball, whatever. I was the last to be picked. I remember, there was a guy in my neighborhood. His name was Stuart, and he was constantly, bullying me. And, I was stupid enough that I kind of pushed back at times, and then he kicked my butt, and time would go on, and he bullied me again, and I pushed back. And one funny story, and this is sort of unrelated, but it is related a little bit. It saved me some of that for a while, because even though he bullied me, we were still friends. Go figure. I mean, he was the son of a, they were supers. They were the superintendent of a building, and they had a pretty large space in the basement. They kind of took it over and became their kind of area that they were able to, we could hang out with. And I remember we would have fun down there. But he had this really, really big German Shepherd. It looked like a wolf. It was mean and nasty and barking, but it was always caged up. So I went down to see Stuart one time, and unbeknownst to me, his dog was out. And I saw it. I panicked. I turned around and ran as fast as I can, but I'm just human. And that thing took a chunk out of my rear end. And Stuart was nice to me for a while, because he was like, I don't want to, I guess he's afraid. Parents told him, make sure he doesn't try to sue us,
There you go.
But yeah, it was just, listen, again, my attitude is, this is a Wisdom Seeker podcast, right? Whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And so I learned from it. It's shaped me. It's shaped who I am. And I know that I'm not who they said I was then. Maybe I was for a little while, allowed myself to be that for a while when I was that age. But today I'm past it. And it's interesting, because that bullying and all that ridicule that I received, I was able to shape that. And it became my biggest motivator. And I grew up with a chip on my shoulder in my late teens, early adulthood. And I believe why I was so driven for success was to prove them wrong, if you will. And so I'm very grateful to a degree, because if it didn't happen to me, I believe I'd be a completely different person today.
Yeah, it's my experience with bullying was, same kind of thing, different setting. In the South, we do things a little different, but the end result is that it challenges us to consider. We either always accept what they say as having some truth and try to defend ourselves, or we finally get to a point where we go, it's not true. And so it's not worth my time to even react. But hopefully in the end, it motivates us to figure it out, which is so important. Want to welcome Richard Stirs. Richard's one of our regulars, and he's from up in your neck of the woods, and says he is good to hear an accent from the tri-state area. Tell us what is a master connector? Okay, that could go a lot of different ways. Tell us from your vantage point, what are you as a master connector?
Yeah, so I amassed a huge network, right? And I even belong to a networking organization called Master Networks. So I could have called myself a master networker, But to me, number one, networking, especially to the younger generation, it's kind of looked at as a dirty word. It's almost like prostitution, or it's just not. It's just ugly, and people don't like it. And to me, networking is good, but there is a sort of a transactional aspect.
Mm-hmm.
True connecting is way more effective. It's way more valuable, in my opinion. So, Master Connector was a name that I preferred. There's a bunch of puns in there. It's brought out in the book a little bit,
Okay.
right? As a martial artist, when you connect with somebody, if you know what I mean,
Sure.
you know that's a piece of it. As I said, I have a higher power. I believe in I have my relationship with my Heavenly Father. So if I can connect people to a relationship like that, there's
Mm-hmm.
that aspect. I believe in, as I said before, connecting authentically, right? So there's that aspect of truly connecting. During COVID, when we were all locked down, I felt more connected than I had ever in my entire life.
Mm-hmm.
And it was because I was being others focused and leading with some of those vulnerabilities and those inadequacies and sharing that. And I had people would say to me, wow, that, I'd see them well up in their eyes. And if I've told you, I'm telling you things that I've never told anyone, and balling up and, welling up. And I just, so it's true connection, right? Because what I found when I broke those barriers down and spoke about some of my challenges that I've had, people's walls went down, and they opened up a little bit. When I connect with people and we have a Zoom call or phone call or whatever, a lot of times they want to start with what I call the "what do you do" dance. So what do you do? What do you do?
That's
And
right.
I'm like, can we not do that? Can you humor me here? Let's let the little kids inside play in the sandbox a little bit first before we get into the "what do you do" stuff. Let's get to know each other on a human level first.
Right.
So that's true connection, not necessarily networking and who can you refer me to and who can you refer me to? Because people do business with people they know, like, and trust, right? And so let's get to know each other so we can like each other first before we start looking to do business together, or at least refer business to people.
Yeah. Look, like you said, networking for some people is purely transactional. And when you get in those, I don't know about you, but it puts me off. I'm not ready to be transactional until we can talk about being, for lack of a better way of putting it, transformational. What can you help me understand in life that I can grow from, and let me share with you from, where I'm at, who I am, so that we can identify with each other and maybe grow with each other. And that's something that's especially tough among men. The ladies are real good at doing that. In fact, I was recently published in a book called Voices of Strength, and it's it's the story of me and 16 other men and our journey, and a lot of it's about raw. This is the way it was. This is what we've been through. Like you said, it's getting in the sandbox together and looking at what's there. And it's missing so much in our culture today, and especially with the social media and all that. We talk about sports and weather and jobs and never really dig in and say, man, part of the reason I am where I am is because I hurt, and I hurt bad, for whatever reason. And so that's a real struggle. So speaking of what do you do, tell us more about what is your, aside from being a master connector, I know you have other vocational pursuits. Tell us a little bit about some of that.
Sure. Yeah. So, I do, business automation consulting. That's been a ton of fun. It pays the bills, keeps the lights on. But also, as I mentioned, some entrepreneurial projects, and really where my heart is I want to continue to grow a speaking career. My goal is to be on a TED stage, but I am an inspirational speaker. So shameless plug. If you want to book me as a speaker, it's Spiro-global.com. Okay. But anyway, I love doing that. I love sharing, inspiration to as many people as possible. Obviously, I have the podcast, the show, the Master Connector show. But that is really ultimately my goal is to, because I love traveling. My wife and I have done a lot of traveling over the years, been around the country, around the world, love people and love to eat. So if I could take those passions of inspiring people, being able to tell my story, travel, be in cool cultures, meet cool people, and eat exotic, cool foods. And it's awesome. So travel the world, speak and inspire and be a beacon of light is my ultimate mission on this planet. So that's what I want to do. So, but yeah, and I'm sure you'll plug it later, but stevespiro.com is the overall website if people want to connect with me. And if you're on LinkedIn, which I'm guessing you're seeing this show, if you're watching it, definitely connect with me on LinkedIn. I mean, I do a lot of things, and part of the reason why Master Connector, right? Because when I would talk to people and they'd ask, because people want to put you in a cute little box. He's an attorney, she's a CPA, he's a plumber, and I don't fit in that box. And when people would ask me what I do, I'd see this scrunched up face, and I don't get it. I'm like, just call me the Master Connector, and that name seemed to stick. So it's just a kind of a catch-all that allows me to kind of, just keep it very broad. And then based on the conversation, it allows me to help connect them in a direction that would make sense, right? Not everybody, very, very, very few people that I'm speaking with can benefit from what I'm doing on the business automation side. It's just very nichey. But maybe there's somebody that I would like to have on our show and be a speaker on our show, or maybe they are looking for a speaker, whatever. So after we get to know each other and play in the sandbox, then we can kind of figure out which aspect of what I do, as you said, Kevin, vocationally, and go in that direction.
Well, and I have posted the links, various links to get in touch with you on the comments area. And yeah, we're streaming to LinkedIn and YouTube as well as Facebook. So are you on Facebook? Do you do Facebook?
I do have a profile. I'm not active in it. And I do have a business page, the Master Connector business page as well. Whereas when I'm streaming also, I'm doing the same. YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. I'm streaming to that profile, but I don't do a lot on Facebook, transparently.
Right. Well, the point is they've got multiple ways to get to you, and of course, if they're can't figure it out, if they get a hold of me, I'm happy to make a connection with Steve for everybody. So, what is a piece of wisdom that you have come to, that you have discovered, that you can share with the audience, that might be something they go, that's what I need?
Well, first of all, what I learned is wisdom is not learning from your own mistakes, but true wisdom is learning from the mistakes of others. So that's number one, I want to say. So and that goes back to the power of mentorship. But one of the things that I learned is, and I don't know exactly the demographics here, so maybe I'm speaking to some of you that may not relate to this a little bit, but maybe you have kids or people in your life. There's a lot of pressure in this younger generation to focus in on the what and the how, the finding the passion of their job or career, and I believe it's the biggest lie from the pit of hell, which is, if you never work a day in your life, if you love what you do, you never work a day in the life. That. And listen, I agree. You want to enjoy what you do, but I think that's a very unrealistic statement, and it's putting some false expectations to young people that are coming out of college or going through college to try to find this passion. And so, one of the metaphors that I learned as a piece of wisdom is, and this is how my life was. I mentioned I was really busy. So at one point I'm driving, this is again metaphor, driving on, in really beautiful cars, fast, cool cars, driving in beautiful windy vista roads, enjoying the view, enjoying the scenery, having a great time, a blast. And GPS came into my life, a mentor, and he said, Steve, where are you going? I don't know, but I'm having a good time. He's like, okay, well, he said this. He said, if you don't know where you're going, you're not going to like where you end up, right? He said, why don't we do this? Why don't we figure out where you want to go? In other words, your end goal, your destination, your why, your ultimate vision, which doesn't have to be a career, by the way. Okay, because if your passion is to support missions in Africa, you could support that financially. You don't have to go there per se. Okay, it could be many ways to support that vision and that passion. Okay, but find out what you want, where you want to, what your ultimate why is, your end goal, and let's reverse engineer. Let's figure out the best roads and the best vehicles to get there. Another metaphor, I challenge young people. I'm like, okay, we're going to go on a race. I'm going to have you race. I'm going to give you a choice of 3 cars. You can choose a brand new Honda Civic, a Ferrari, or a beat up pickup truck. What would you pick? And inevitably, almost everybody picks the Ferrari, right?
Yeah.
I've had a few people pick the Civic. Oh, I want the reliable car. Okay. Well, unbeknownst to them, half the race is up the top of a mountain, right? So, okay, now knowing that now, what vehicle should you have picked? Oh yeah, I should have picked the pickup truck.
Right.
Yeah. And most people are picking the what and the how because it's cool. It's fun. It's exciting. But is it going to get you to where you want to go? And most of the time it's not, because you start with what or how. Again, you watch or listen, watch the TEDx talk. I think it's a TEDx talk he does, or it's a talk on YouTube. Simon Sinek does the Golden Circle, or he has the book Start with Why. There's a lot in that. There's another book, by the way, called The Who, Not How, which I think it's Dan Sullivan. Great book. I really learned that it's not just it's not the who and it's not the what and the how. It's the who and the why. Those are the things that are more important than anything else, because once you know why, and if you're having a tough time finding out the why, a who will help you big time, especially the right who in your life. But if you know your why, then the right who will help you facilitate and help you find the what and the how, right? So the who and the why is so valuable versus the what and the how.
Love it.
Scientific, it's chemical, it's all brain stuff. Simon Sinek does a way better job than I do explaining all the science behind that.
Well, I love it, because what you're describing is something that I tell people all the time, and that is you got to have a vision. And if you don't have a vision, you're going to flounder. And to put it in, again, that there's no secret on this podcast that I believe in spiritual things, and that one of the greatest pieces of wisdom is in the Bible. And Bible says that without vision, people perish.
Amen.
And it's not a commentary on whether we're going to die or not, because we're all destined to that physically, but it is about death of how to truly live. And if we've got vision, what the who and the why, we can then understand the rest. It brings it all into focus, and it's something that is lost in our current culture, because, like you said, it's the what and the where and the how, and looking good and all of that, and very little about, okay, where do we need to go? And the other part, the who part, in my mind, is something that's critical, is who we are designed to be. It is, again, we spend our time trying to figure out how to have the best what and where and how, and never ever really realize who we are and why we're here. And that's so unfortunate. Really keeps us from having direction, having abundance, and being satisfied. Again, I tell people I do career counseling with people, and And I say, you can make lots of money in a lot of different ways, but there's a point if you're making money, but you're miserable doing it, it's not who you are truly or why you're here. There'll be a point you'll say, I don't care about the money. It doesn't matter. And, but trying to get people to that point is always a challenge because the world will help them with the how and the what and all that all the time. So shift gears a little bit. As I said, one of the things that I talk about on the podcast is that we're made up of three parts. We have a body, we have a soul, and we have a spirit. And what I tell people is that if you're not healthy and nurturing all aspects of your life, you're never going to be truly healthy because it's all connected. You can be the most amazing physical specimen out there, but if you're having mental and emotional problems or spiritually you're dead or lacking, you will not ever be fully healthy. And so tell us a little bit. You've mentioned that you have a spiritual component in your life. Tell us a little bit more about that, please.
Well, I'm glad we're going in this direction because I know you said we're treading lightly. Obviously, in the world we are today, we got, we're trying to be sensitive to people and not push any beliefs on anyone. But, I believe what I believe, and hopefully you respect what I believe, and I respect what you believe, right?
Yep.
But there's a great piece in the Bible which it says, what are the greatest commandment? What's the greatest commandment? And man said, love God with all your soul, with all your heart, and all your might, and love others as yourself, right? And that's amazing. But and I was at a spiritual retreat, and that came up, and we were out, I think breakfast the next morning, and I said to the spiritual leader, I said, let me ask you a question. What about the fact that there's a lot of people that have tough time loving themselves? Could you love yourself? Could you love others if you don't love yourself? And he's like, interesting, and I think that's a big challenge right now is, yes, those two are important, but if you don't love yourself first, it's hard to love others. And so, and so I've worked really hard on getting at peace within myself. And, a lot of it has been my spiritual journey for sure. I believe that, we are meant, sons and daughters of a king, and we've got royalty, within our veins, and, we're amazing creation. And, again, I'll use the G word, I'll use God. You can just substitute universe, higher power if you don't believe in that. But I believe that God doesn't make junk, and we are incredible. And, and I don't mean that to try to be boastful that I'm better than anyone, because I think we all are. And, I also believe that we do have our challenges, our flaws, but I believe it's those flaws and challenges that we can inspire people with. I've heard it, your mess becomes your message, your test becomes your testimony, right? And you can inspire other people through some of those challenges and journeys. So it took quite a while for me to get to a place where I love who I am. I'm still work in progress. I'm not perfect. There's still days that I am disappointed in myself, but overall, I love who I am because I know whose I am and who I am, and who made me. And so because of that, I have peace, and that allowed me, on the connecting side, back to that a little bit, it allowed me the ability to now have to be able to connect with others, and to really not to when I was transparent and vulnerable, and I am that way, people open up and they connect, and they allow us to really become better, and people understand that, listen, this person's real, and I can be real, and now we can really truly connect. So anyway, that's my thoughts on that. probably
Nice.
rambled a little longer than I would have liked to.
No, it's great. I mean, that's your story, and our stories are power to impact other people. That's part of, we're very unique, but we also have some shared universal design, and one of those is to live and impact the lives of others. That is something we're all here for. I wanted to welcome Lee, one of my regulars on here. He is in case you don't know Lee, Steve, he is actually running for president in 2024. You have to check him out on LinkedIn. Yeah, pretty interesting. And Lee is made a couple of comments, and I think this was related to what we're talking about, staying silent about things, and that is silence only helps the tormentor and never the tormented. And so speaking up is not, we should speak up because if we speak up in a way that is out of being authentic, generally it's not going to be threatening. It's just going to be real. And the other one, and this is, boy, Lee is opening up a little bit of a can of worms here. And he says, I agree about God does not make junk, but I struggle when it comes to terrorists. And I get it. That's a tough one, and something that is hard for us to get our heads around, get our hearts around is the, God, people say, well, if God loves us, why do we have war? That's always a real struggle for a lot of people to consider spiritual things. And I don't know that I have a succinct answer on it in terms of that. God creates all of us. What we do as a matter of choice is up to us. So all I can think of,
if you, again, we can go down a rabbit hole here, but it's the fall of man, right? Adam and Eve, right? They ate the apple and they brought, death and they brought evil, they opened up the door to evil. And so, we're supposed to love others. We don't have to love their actions. And many times their actions are driven by evil forces, not necessarily them per se. It just, evil forces have taken over them. And that's, it is tough. And my heart's thought prayers goes to the people of Israel and people that are all over the country and all over the world that have family and friends in Israel, and they've been affected by it. And, again, it's such a horrific situation. I'm not condoning anything out there. I just think that we are all human, and we need to treat it with love. We don't have to agree with the actions, but we should never hate anyone, because that's not our mission here. We're called to love, not to hate. So we can hate the actions, but not others. And it's tough. It really is tough.
Yeah. In fact, you hit on a principle that I'm still trying to learn. And, I understand the words, but I don't always understand how to practice it. But one of our designs includes being able to love everyone regardless. But in the same vein, we have to hate their sin, their bad choices, their wrong actions, their hurtfulness, and so on. And boy, finding that in that balance is a challenge. And one of the things that you talked about, and I think this is a message that we, as a people, especially as a spiritual people, need to be really helping others understand, is the place that our value comes from. I believe that a lot of what explains behaviors in our culture is a lack of understanding and belief or conviction about our value as a person. Because I think we've got a lot of people still trying to defend themselves, or but they're trying to establish their value. And what I think you've learned, and I know this is something I've learned, is that our value has been established. It is not something that we accomplish because we can't. Our value was established by our Creator. And so when we can go, okay, I am valuable as a created being, then I can lay that aside and move on to learn and grow in these areas that I need to grow in that are not what they need to be. And so how would you help others grasp how you came to appreciate your value as a created being? What were some of the things that helped you really buy into that or become a part of you?
Yeah, I mean that's a conversation that we probably can get into on another time because it gets pretty deep spiritual, right?
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of it has to do with, you know, what I've studied in terms of scripture and
Mm-hmm.
prayer and other people in my life. I will say this, and I'll keep it to a non spiritual side.
Okay.
Having someone in your life who is a mentor to you, like I still have to this day. You know, he said this years back. He said, "I'll believe in you till you believe in me, till eventually you believe in yourself."
Mm.
And it was powerful, and it has been very, very powerful. And I paid that forward with people because I realize through all my work, self work, in reading and studying and lots of good things I put into my ear and eye gate, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, I realize that everyone has great value. They may not always see that. And so if I could believe in them because I believe that they have the seed of greatness within them, they have tremendous potential.
Mm.
So if I see that because I know that's how we were created, because I've read the manual,
Yeah.
you know, I've read the manual, the human manual. Okay. I understand how we operate. And I'm able to put my belief in them. And, you know, it's hard for you to not, when you continue to have somebody believe in you, for you to not at some point believe in them.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually that belief in self comes into play. So that's been a big journey for me to believe in myself.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that has helped is incredible amount of self growth,
Mm-hmm.
self development. You know, I put a tremendous amount of positive in podcast audios, books. I average probably a book or two, sometimes three, depending on the length, a month. And thank God for Audible.
Yeah.
Yeah, as you probably saw, you know, my book just came out on Audible. So for those who have a tough time reading, like I am one of those guys, Audible, but just putting good stuff in,
Mm-hmm.
you know, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks, right? So you
Yes.
put good in, good comes out. But also, you know, you can't pour from your cup if your cup is empty.
Mm-hmm.
So fill that cup to overflow so you can give to others. And it's because I'm constantly pouring good stuff in and constantly feeding my mind, my heart, and my soul, that I believe when I come into a situation, whether it's a podcast, whether it's a room that I'm walking into, virtual or in person, or a speaking situation, whatever, I believe that the room is better because of that, not from an ego standpoint,
Right.
because I just poured so much good stuff in. So my recommendation: get a mentor and develop a voracious self-development habit. Just pour in good stuff, right? Unfortunately, a lot of the world does the opposite.
Mm.
Watch the news. We get news feeds. It's always typically negative, and
Mm.
all that's doing is programming our brain for negativity and success. This is part of this is from one of the books one of my mentors recommended years ago, and I've read it multiple times, listened to it, Think and Grow Rich. But it says, and I'm paraphrasing, but success cannot happen in a negative brain.
Mm.
So you got to get that brain positive. And the way you're going to do that is through what you input in.
And it's so true. And what I always come back to, and I, the longer I go and the more wisdom I gain, I realize that, like you mentioned, having the operator's manual for a human is a lot of insight. And one of the things that it talks about is that we should be always renewing our mind. And when we're renewing our mind, then it helps to bring things together in a synchronous fashion across our mind, our soul, our body, and our spirit, because it becomes the environment that we function in. Lee, I appreciate you dropping in. I know you stay busy, and yes, it is an interesting topic today, and we never know where we're going to go on the podcast, and just try to be sensitive to the opportunities. But one of the things you mentioned, the Great Commandment, and I think this is something that for so long has been missed, is that we get the love God with our whole heart and everything, and then what we quite often do is we hear love your neighbor, and a lot of people stop there and miss the importance of loving your neighbor as yourself. And if we can grow in our understanding, not just our mental assent, okay, but our deep, heartfelt appreciation for who we've been created to be and the value that comes with that, then when that's settled for us, then we don't have to be defensive or debating other people about theirs, because we go, okay, I am of great value, but so are you. So there's nothing to debate there. So let's go on to deal with other things. And it's very freeing when we get to a point where we appreciate the value that we have intrinsically. And one of the quotes, I'm working on a quote book that eventually I'll get out. I don't know. It feels like it's been forever. But one of the quotes is that we have intrinsic value. We don't earn it, so we can't lose it. Others didn't give it to us, so they can't take it away. It's given to us by our Creator, and He's not going to take it away. And when we get that settled, life looks so differently. In fact, I think that as we begin to establish our value, the whole thing of bullying, because what bullying does is says you're worthless, you're no good, you're less than. And if we go, no, I know better than that, then there's nothing there to have room to be dealing with. What else about your book? Any specific things you'd like to share with our audience as far as the book goes? And
yeah, I mean, one of the feedback that I'm getting from the book, if you get the written version, book, and it's available through Amazon, either in a digital or you can get the printed book. Of course, as I said, Audible. But if you get the printed book, one of the things that people have said to me is that they love it the way it's written, because you could just pick it up, open a page, and because it's like little vignettes, it's little short stories, little parables. So you just go to one page and then just read it, and or you could look at the index and say, oh, that'd be a good message for me today, and just read it. And it's like it's a page and a half maybe of that section, so you don't have to like read it all the way through to get value. Or if you do read it through and then you want to come back to it, you can kind of just get some inspiration from it along the way. So there's been that's the feedback I'm getting on the book. Great value, great, and it's a quick read. I think it's 3.5 to 4.5 hours, depending upon how fast of a reader you are. So, but I believe it'll really add value for you. But yeah, it's just again stories, and to a degree, it could come across. There's some sections that might come across redundant, but it's because I really want to make sure you understand that you're amazing. Right? When I signed the book, and if you direct message me. I'm happy to get you a signed book, but I typically write, the person's name. I said, Joe, you're awesome. You're awesome. You're awesome. Uh, and then the second thing I write is keep shining your light, right? Because that's to me what it's about, right? Number one, you're amazing, and shine your light and show others that you are amazing too. So yeah, that's really it. I mean, I spoke about the pillars. I don't want to be redundant, but it's parables, it's stories, as you could tell through some of the, ways I articulate some of the things I've learned over the way. I tend to talk in stories. I've learned that's a great way to communicate, through stories, through parables. The great teacher did as well when he walked this earth 2,000 years plus ago. So it's a great way to do it. So hopefully it'll come across when you get my book.
Well, I definitely want to get a copy, so we'll get together and work out the details on that. I'd love to get that and read it as well, and be I'm sure, opportunity to learn and grow. So lastly, you've obviously gained some wisdom along the way, and I don't think it's sometimes wisdom we stumble into it or fall into it, depends on how hard-headed we are. But tell us a little bit about how you choose to seek out and gain wisdom.
Yeah, I mean, there's a great scripture, right? There's wisdom in a multitude of counselors, right? So it's having the right people around you, right? I think it's important to have a great network, a community of people that are, the way you believe. Mentorship is another piece of it. Putting in the right things, listening / reading, edifying things that for people that have the fruit on the tree. I remember years ago, I'm dating myself for those who are younger, a lot younger than us, Kevin, but I'm dating myself. They talked about the fruit being a fruit inspector. That was the Fruit of the Loom commercial, but you want to be a fruit inspector. So check the fruit on the tree. Are they in life where you want to be? Do they have the life and the type of fruit, if you will? And if they do, listen to them and get around them and seek their wisdom and knowledge. Be careful about who you listen to, because there's a lot of people, and with technology today, you can get a lot of information, but is it the right information? And there's a lot of Google out there that you can Google and get opinions, but opinions like belly buttons. Everyone's got one. So I've learned
they're not all pretty.
And always pretty, and yeah, exactly. So yeah, definitely make sure you check the fruit and get the right wisdom from the right people. And the way that is just see what their fruit is like. Do they, if you're going to seek marital counsel and wisdom, what's their marriage like? If you're going to seek financial advice or wisdom, what's their finances like? What's their financial success? So that's the most important thing that I've learned is just to be a fruit inspector.
Very good. Very good. Well, I have posted the information on the comments to get in touch with Steve, and then I will add them at the end on LinkedIn at the recording. So feel free to reach out and contact Steve, maybe about the podcast, about getting his book. You definitely want to get a signed copy from him. You got to get that personalized touch there, since you get a chance to meet the man behind the book. So look forward to being back next week. And Steve, I appreciate you taking time out of your very busy schedule to be part of the podcast today. And I believe that you've inspired some people to consider about gaining wisdom and ways to do it. And so give you the last parting comments before we head out. Last thing to say?
Just, it's an honor, Kevin. I really appreciate what you're doing, your work. This is amazing. Keep shining your light. You're awesome, right? But definitely, this is great work. So definitely appreciate the wisdom that you bring. And I'm just honored to be on the show here and on with your community. And I'd love to, whoever's listening, watching, please connect because your voice matters. I'd love to hear from you.
Very good. We'll see everyone next week. Be blessed this week. Have a great week, and look forward to seeing you back here Monday, 8:00 a.m. Eastern, now Standard Time. Take care, everyone, and we will see you later. God bless.